The brilliant mind of the week is Nicole Oresme. Nicole Oresme lived from approximately 1320 to 1382. He was a significant French philosopher, mathematician, physicist, astronomer, and theologian of the medieval period. Here are some key points about his life and achievements. Life. Born in Normandy, France around 1320, studied and later taught at the University of Paris, became Bishop of Lisieux in 1377. Mathematical achievements: developed the concept of fractional powers, pioneered the use of graphs for representing mathematical functions, made significant contributions to geometry. Physics and astronomy. Proposed that the Earth rotates on its axis, challenging the prevailing Aristotelian view, discussed the possibility of multiple worlds and the vastness of the universe, contributed to the development of mechanics, particularly the study of motion. In the realm of economics, Nicole Oresme's contributions were nothing short of groundbreaking. He wrote influential treatises on money and economics, laying the foundation for many modern economic theories. Oresme developed early concepts of supply and demand, which, let's be honest, are still crucial today. He also discussed the problems of inflation and the debasement of currency, showcasing his deep understanding of economic principles. Moving on to philosophy and theology, Oresme's intellectual curiosity knew no bounds. He translated many of Aristotle's works into French, making these complex ideas more accessible. His contributions to the development of natural philosophy were significant as he explored the intricate relationship between faith and reason. It's clear that Oresme was a thinker ahead of his time. When it comes to language, Oresme's impact is equally impressive. He helped develop scientific vocabulary in the French language, a task that was essential for the advancement of science. Oresme's work laid important groundwork for later scientific developments, particularly in mathematics and physics. His influence continues to be felt even centuries later. Nicole Oresme's mathematical contributions were fractional powers. Oresme developed the concept of fractional powers in his work Algorismus Proportionum, Algorithm of Proportions, written around 1360. This was a significant advancement in mathematics. He introduced the idea of using fractional exponents, which allowed for a more general treatment of powers and roots. For example, he understood that a to the 1/2 represented the square root of a. This concept was far ahead of its time and wouldn't be fully developed and widely used until centuries later. Graphical representation of functions. Oresme is often credited as one of the precursors to analytic geometry due to his work on graphing. In his treatise Tractatus de Configurationibus Qualitatem et Motuum, treatise on the configuration of qualities and motions, written sometime between 1351 and 1355, he introduced a system of rectangular coordinates to represent velocity over time. This was groundbreaking because it was one of the earliest graphical attempts to represent a mathematical function. It laid the foundation for later developments in analytic geometry by Descartes and Fermat. It provided a visual understanding of concepts like acceleration and distance traveled. Oresme made several important contributions to geometry. He wrote a significant work titled De Proportionibus Proportionum, on the proportions of proportions, which dealt with various geometrical and mathematical concepts. In this and other works, he explored the properties of ratios and proportions, studied the relationships between geometrical figures, investigated the nature of infinite series, and introduced using powers with fractional and irrational exponents in geometry. Oresme wrote several influential treatises that were essentially books by the standards of his time. The works I've mentioned, Algorismus Proportionum, Tractatus de Configurationibus Qualitatem et Motuum, and De Proportionibus Proportionum, were all substantial written works that circulated among scholars. Additionally, he wrote Le Livre du Ciel et du Monde, the Book of the Heavens and the Earth, which was a French translation and commentary on Aristotle's On the Heavens. This work included many of his original ideas on astronomy and physics. In medieval times, these books were typically handwritten manuscripts rather than printed books as we know them today. They were often copied and distributed among scholars and universities, forming an important part of the intellectual discourse of the time. Nicole Oresme wrote several treatises that touched on economic topics. His most significant works on economics were De Moneta, on money. This was Oresme's most important and influential work on economics, written around 1355. In this treatise, he discussed the nature and function of money, the problems of currency debasement, the concept of Gresham's law, though it wasn't called that at the time, and the relationship between money and political power. Tractate des Monnois, Treatise on Coins. This French adaptation of De Moneta made his economic ideas more accessible to a wider audience. De Mutatione Monetarum, on the changing of money. This work further expanded on his ideas about currency and monetary policy. In these works, Oresme developed several important economic concepts. He argued against the ruler's debasement of the currency, seeing it as a form of unjust taxation. He discussed early versions of what would later be known as Gresham's law, the principle that bad money drives out good. He explored the relationship between the quantity of money in circulation and prices, foreshadowing later quantity theory of money. He developed rudimentary concepts of supply and demand. While these weren't exclusively economic treatises in the modern sense, they contained significant economic thought ahead of time. Oresme's work on money and economics influenced later thinkers and developed economic theory in subsequent centuries. Oresme's mathematical works were highly influential in their time. They laid the necessary groundwork for later developments in mathematics, particularly in analytic geometry and the treatment of powers and exponents. Thank you for watching.